Hey everyone, I hope you all are doing well, and I sincerely hope you all are excited for this lecture. I shall share my screen and let's get started. My name is Hriday Purohit. I'm a first year computer science grad student at Rutgers University. Today, I'll be talking about HTML tables. For everybody who's wondering what are the prerequisites for this particular topic, it's basically the rudimentary concepts of HTML, and that's about it. So an overview of this lesson, I shall be talking about what is HTML, which is a small recap over the HTML syntax for everybody's ease of use. What are tables and how to define an HTML table, and elements of an HTML table, such as how to add data to the table, such as table rows, table headers, and table cell data. Finally, I will be talking about styling an HTML table, such as using borders and cell padding. Last but not the least, I will make this an interactive experience. I shall pick a problem or a table and I shall design it while I will be explaining the theory so that everybody can see the application of the theory and it makes the lesson more interesting. So let's move forward. What is HTML? HTML or hypertext markup language is the building block used to create an entire structure of a web page. As you can see, this is the Rutgers School of Arts and Sciences web page. And I have circled three different elements of that web page. Let's say a photo, a drop down, and a list. Now, an analogy that I use is these elements could be compared to organs of our body. And the organs of our body are placed in a particular way or structure using a certain set of guidelines or coding guidelines to create an entire human body. In a similar way, HTML elements are placed using the coding guidelines to create the structure of an entire web page, which resembles a human body. I hope that makes it more simpler. Okay, elements of an HTML code. Elements or the building blocks of an HTML code are the tags. The tags have a very simple format that is a tag name in between a greater than and a less than sign. So there has to always be a starting and an ending tag. A tag cannot be left incomplete, and tags are basically enclosed in a greater than and less than sign. The difference between a starting and an ending tag is as simple as a forward slash, as you can see here. Let's move forward to the four basic tags that are going to be a part of an HTML code. Doctype HTML. Doctype HTML defines that the document is an HTML document. It is the most important and the first tag in HTML document, and this does not need to be closed. HTML. HTML defines the start of an HTML code. So as I mentioned, there's going to be a starting that is an HTML tag and an ending that is a /HTML tag. The entirety of the HTML code would be present between these two tags. There is also a head and a body. The head contains all the metadata of the particular code, such as the data which is not going to be visible on the web page, but is still a part of the web page, such as a title or character set, etc. The body, however, will contain all the data that is visible on the particular web page. To make this more simpler, I shall code all these four basic tags in front of you. You all can use Visual Studio Code or Sublime Text. I'll be using a Triad editor for ease of use. And yeah, let's look at it. So as I mentioned, doc type, HTML is the first thing that is important. Let's move to HTML. Let's close HTML. And in between this, we have our head. We close our head. We have our body. We close our body. Perfect. And now in the head, we can add a title. So let's just stick to title. So title. And let's end our title. Perfect. And let me add some data. Let's put HTML table lecture. Perfect. If I run this, you won't be able to see anything because it is a part of the metadata and you can't see it on the web page. Meanwhile, if I add something in the body, it will be very much visible. Hi, I am Hriday. Perfect. As you can see, it's visible. Now let's move on to tables. This, as you can see, is the perfect skeleton of every single HTML document you're ever going to see. Okay. What are tables and how to define an HTML table? Tables, as everybody knows, are tabular data containing of rows and columns. This particular example is a table of students and their marks for two particular subjects. Two students, Hillary and Larry, and their subjects are Advanced Web and Operating System, and each of their marks. This will be the problem statement that I'm using, and I will try coding this simultaneously as I'm teaching you all. so that you all can understand what I'm teaching. So I've just opened up this page here for ease of access and everybody can see, and we can refer to it while coding. Let's move forward to how to define an HTML table. Any guesses? It's as simple as table. That's it. The tag to define an HTML table is table, nothing else. So if I add it here, let's just put it as table, apologies, table, and we close this. As I mentioned prior to this, everything will be written between these two body tags, nothing, nowhere else. Now, if I execute this, this will go away and you won't see any table because I haven't added any data to it. Perfect, but the code still runs. So now talking about adding data to the table, let's move forward to how to add data to any table. Elements of an HTML table, how to add data. Table rows. So let's talk about rows. I hope you all know these are the rows, the horizontal lines, and these are the columns, right? So the first building block of a table is the row. So if you have an HTML code and you've started and you've defined a table, the first part of the table you define will be a row. And inside that row, you will be defining every single cell, so as mentioned here. For ease of use, you can imagine the tag of table rows as tr, which is T for table, R for rows. So as I mentioned here, the first element to be defined after a table is created is the row. After that, you are going to define every single cell for every specific row. So let's say I have this example. I will be defining name, subject. I'll be defining row 1. I'll be defining name, subject, marks for row 1. I'll be defining row 2, then Hriday, advanced web, and 75 for row 2, and so on and so forth until I finish my table. So let's move forward and start coding. So the tag for table row is tr. And as you can see, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. So let's just open and close 5 different rows. Tr /tr, that is 1 row, perfect. Now if I copy this, paste, 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 perfect. I should be having 5 rows by now. Now let's add details to the first row. The first row contains 3 different cells, right? So 3 different TDs. You could think of it as TD, as table data for ease of use. Okay, so name, subject, and marks. So I'll be adding tr. Here's the first TD. I'll just add some indentation for ease of use. TD, name, and let's close the TD. Perfect. Now I'll just copy this because let's not type too much. Oops. Perfect. Now there's name, subject, marks. Now if I execute this, you will see name, subject, and marks. Perfect. Not the exact kind of format we needed, but looks similar. Now let's do this for every single value. I'm going to just make it easy. I'll copy this particular TD. I'll paste it here. I'll paste it here. I'll paste it here. I'll paste it here. Okay. Just indentation. Always remember to add some indentation. It makes the code look more better and everybody can understand it, just as a tip. So yeah, let's add Hriday, advanced web, 75. Okay, so instead of name, I put it up as Hriday. I put it up as web. I put the marks as 25. Perfect. Now I'm going to put this one as, again, it's Hriday operating system and 60. Okay. I'm just going to copy this because it is too much of a task. Apologies for being lazy. Operating system. I hope it's the same. And it's 60. All right. Now I'm going to do the same thing for Larry. All right. Okay. So, yep. I'm just going to be copying these two particular ones. Erase these two and I'll paste them. All right, here it becomes Larry. It becomes Larry, and I think Larry scored better grades. It's 80 and 75. Yes. So 80 and 75. If I run this, it should look something similar to a raw format of the table we are seeing, right? Perfect. If you can notice a small difference, you can't seem to understand there is any heading column here. Meanwhile, here you can see that the heading column is bold. So we move on to header. table headers or TH. TH is usually a header row, which is usually the first row of every single table. So, and it has the tag TH, which is table header, and it is defined usually in the first row. So let's change the syntax for the first row from TD to TH, TD to TH, TD to TH. Oops. Yep. There you go. And now if you run it, you should see it in bold. Perfect. Now it is formatted as a header. Still, it looks like a raw version of this table, but it is not the correct version because there is borders. And as you can see, this data is a bit more cramped as compared to what we are seeing right now. I think there's a typo here. Yep, I apologize. Yep, let's move on. Next. So let's move on to customizing and styling a table so that it looks as pretty as we can see in this photo. Styling an HTML table. So as I mentioned, this table has borders and there is a gap between the text and the border. Meanwhile, this doesn't. So these two things are called, as you guessed it, table borders and cell padding. Cell padding is basically the gap between the text and the borders of the table. Meanwhile, a table border is just a table border, right? So to add this, all you need to do is append the table tag with border equal to 1 and cell padding equal to 15, which is what a random number I've chosen. So let me just pick the table tag and I add border equal to 1. Let me run it. See, you got this. Now let's add the cell padding. And I assume it should look exactly as this here. Perfect. There we go. We have successfully created this particular table. All we needed was cell padding and table borders as customization. All right. Note, both of these stylings are not supported by HTML5. So after HTML5, you'll have to use CSS, which can be discussed later. Let's move on. Finally, I think after sitting through this lesson, all y'all can answer is that what is a table and how to define a table in HTML. I think how to add columns, rows, and headers to an HTML table has also been explained and can be answered by all. Finally, adding and customizing a table by adding table borders and cell padding is the last topic. In the next lecture, we might cover on how to change the sizing of the table and its contents, and finally, how to implement row and column spanning. All right. As you all know, a lecture can never be finished without homework, and I think the best test to understand and implement what you all have done would be to solve this particular table and replicate it exactly using a similar HTML code. For any queries regarding this table or anything further, you all can reach out to me at hriday.purohit@rutgers.edu. I sincerely hope you all enjoyed the lecture, and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to help you all understand what HTML tables are. Have a nice day and stay safe. Bye.